Hi, I've just made this fabulous plate or bowl cozy. There it is upside down. It's perfect for putting food on in the microwave. It can stay in the microwave and it protects your hands when you are trying to take out a hot bowl of something, bowl of soup, bowl of food, anything. These are the things you need. Some sort of soap and detergent. Dishwashing is fine, olive oil is good, some massage rubbing tools. We're going to be using this bat of scrap wool that I've put together from a whole lot of projects. Using a pizza tray, I have cut out a circle the right size, and using all the leftover bits of wool from the circle cutting out, I am adding another layer on top with a lot of reinforcement around the edge. This is going to be one really solid piece of felt. Usually I make delicate things that you can almost see through. This is the complete opposite to that. I am going to make a piece of felt that will last forever. Because it's a circle, I decided that I would lay out the wool in like a sunflower, sundial sort of pattern. And I will continue to do that on the top surface where I'm using this luscious merino wool top. I have to pull it apart, and then I'm just showing you here how I will pull apart each bit to lay out the wool so that it's hard to see when I'm going so fast. Obviously not my natural speed. Isn't it beautiful? Sunflower colours. It's got to be something you can stand having around the house. So I've put a piece of nylon net on top of that, and now we are going to wet it down. This time I'm just using a really cheap little rubbishy plastic shopping bag that picks up the water and holds it enough, and I am just gently squishing that down. I'm using the net over the top of it because otherwise if I just use my hands, the roughness of my hands would lift the wool up, and we don't want that to happen. So I press that down a lot. Then when I think I've got it all through, I get some toweling and get rid of the slushy part of the moisture. We want it wet but not sloshy. Then I've used that little roller to press it down, and now I'm using my hands. There's a lot of handwork in this. Now the bit around the edge, you can see I haven't pressed that down, and that is very deliberate because that is going to give us a really nice edge on our work. Later on I completely stuffed that up, but we won't talk about that now. So we turn it over to the wrong side, and already you can see the imprint of the bubble wrap that is underneath. Then I very carefully place over the stuff that was hanging out of the edge. So can you see we've made an edge for this already. Then we duplicate what was on the other side, and again I'm using the sundial sort of pattern. Again we put down the net and we wet it through again because that's another layer that isn't wet, and press it and use the roller. You can do all of this with your hands. You don't have to have this roller. I just happen to have it, but you'd be surprised what you've got about you. Rolling pin is quite good for this. The little roller's got spikes and it can press down. I found that one in a thrift shop. So when I take the net off, I have to be really careful not to take any of the wool with me. The wool will felt through that net and glue onto it quite quickly. So we want to avoid that. Peel it off very carefully. Then you see I'm replicating the same idea I did on the other side because I've added a little bit over the edge, and we start working this with our hands. Lots and lots of handwork, and you'll notice that I am massaging it in the same direction that I laid it down. I'm not going across it. I think that helps. There's so much wool in this. This thing is going to felt almost no matter what I do, but of course we want it to felt nice and evenly. We want it to be even. We don't want any holes in it. But I have used so much wool, there is not going to be a little gap in there anywhere. And that's important if you're going to be using this as almost as an oven mitt. And by the way, you obviously can use this as an oven mitt. The other thing it's really good for, I find, is as a base to put a hot pot down when you have been cooking. Now let's have a go with what we in Australia call a sander. I know I've noticed in every country it's called something different. Now it might look like I'm rubbing this on there, but I'm actually not. I'm lifting it up and then putting it in one place and letting it stay in that place for about 10 seconds. This is very sped up. This is this bit of footage, because I'm sure you don't want to be watching this for hours. And what I'm using underneath there is a little piece of IKEA shelving plastic that is quite substantial. It'll probably last me forever. So I'm going to use the sander on one side, and then we turn it over and I can use it on the other side. So you can see, if I'm going to use something like a sander, that's why it's really important that I don't have too much water in there. We want some water, we want some soap, and that's where the olive oil soap is good, because it is not too sudsy. Sometimes the dishwashing liquid can be very, very sudsy, and that actually prevents the felting. Please subscribe to my channel. I would love it if you did. So at this point, I have taken the whole little parcel and I have put it in the microwave for about two minutes on high. Just keep an eye on it, but you can see the steam coming off that. That is really hot, and it has shrunk already. I don't know if you can tell that it has shrunk already, but it has. It has shrunk. It has got a lot more to go, but it has shrunk. Now at this point, I started getting particular and decided that I really, because I was doing this for you, that I really needed to make it into a perfect circle. And of course it didn't have to be a perfect circle, so I don't know why I did that. Because now, as you can see, now I need to cut off some of the excess to make it a perfect circle. And in doing that, I've exposed the rubbish wool that's on the inside for my edge, making the whole thing a little bit less than perfect. Less than perfect's okay though. So now lots and lots of work on both sides of this. And just because I am not using some way of rolling it doesn't mean you can't or shouldn't or anything like that. You do whatever works. Lots of dropping, lots of manipulating. Now, until I put that in the microwave, I hadn't used heat. So that was the first time I used heat. So I actually did a lot of work on this before I started introducing something hot. Now I'm using this little, it was actually a soap dish, but it's just a bit of wood with some ridges in it. And here's a midpoint to check. So you can see this is substantially bigger than a plate. It's not too big to go in the microwave, but what I want to do with that spare acreage there is to make a lip for this, so that when you take it out of the microwave, you can actually get your hands under, confident that where your thumbs sit is going to be like a bowl shape, not flat. Could be flat though, it really wouldn't matter, but I just thought I'd get fancy with it. Now you can see those marks on the sides there at 12, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock. That's just like a little tuck, a little dart that I put in. People make these beautifully out of cotton and with cotton batting. The important thing is you must use natural fibre. Do not ever make one of these that has artificial fibre, because it gets nasty and it melts when it's hot. And there you have it. Finished. See how substantial it is? That is one serious piece of felt. I could make soles of slippers out of that felt. That's how strong it is. Now, I initially made this for my mother's 90th birthday, and here she is. And she has used that little plate, Cosy, every day since her birthday. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you make a plate Cosy for yourself. See you next time.